This is Johnny Nelson, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Well, so as I was doing the last video for David Haye versus Joe Fournier, I'm like halfway through recording it, and I'm trying to focus on just getting that video done. But it just kind of like dawned on me, which is why I'm doing this video now, just to almost get it out of my system. That's kind of like a therapeutic for me, which is why I'm doing it. So I do apologise to those of you who are listening to it right now, because it is just me just thinking out loud, that I'm thinking, this is just another one of these comeback fights. This is going to be on another comeback fight of Oscar De La Hoya. He's doing a comeback fight, which also on this card, you've got the MMA fighters, Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz, and you've got these kind of things. Then previously, of course, you've got like the Jake Paul fights, Logan Paul fights, KSI, and Floyd Mayweather, and Glenn McCorry wants to come back, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, is this really where boxing's going? Is this the direction that it's going? Now, in reality, it kind of isn't, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But I do have to remind myself that I did actually play a small role, and it is a very, very small role in some of it, which is not something that I ever wanted to do. And I do regret it, but because I should have said no in the beginning. That's what I should have said no, such as like a Heavy D. Now, Heavy D, Colin Newell, he's a very good friend of mine, and I miss him dearly. And unfortunately, he's passed away now, as I'm sure a lot of you are fully aware. He used to do like the shows of Big Brother and many, many other kind of stuff. Very, very loud, larger than life personality. Really, really nice guy though. When you don't have the camera on him or anything like that, he was actually quite a quiet guy, very humble guy. He really was. And as I said, I do miss him dearly. But anyway, he called me up. And as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, I helped like a kickstart his channel in some ways. I would create some of the default uploads for like his tags and things like that. And some of his earlier interviews, I actually recorded them. And then I put them up onto his channel, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, he called me up once and he says, I want to do an interview with Mickey Theo. I think we should try and get hold of Mickey Theo. I was like, I'd rather not. I don't know who this guy is. Why would you want to interview this guy for? He was like, oh, because he's called out John Fury. I'm saying, but so? I don't know who this Mickey Theo is. He was like, oh, well, he's a bit of a name down south for whatever reason. I think he used to be a doorman or something like that. And he used to be a bodybuilder or whatever else. I don't know how big bodybuilding popularity is. I have no idea. But either way, I'd never heard of this guy. And he says, oh, come on, man, let's do the interview. I'm like, I don't really want to do the interview. For what? Because he called out John Fury? There's a lot of people out there that John Fury could fight. Why would he want to fight him for? If John Fury fought this Mickey Theo guy, what's going to happen? It's a lose-lose situation for John Fury. If he wins, oh, well, he's supposed to win. If he loses, well, that's just damage control right there, isn't it? That's all his credibility gone out the window. John Fury, in reality, if he did fight him, should have been a 99% of the person in his favour. Because he would be the reason people would want to watch, because he's got the Fury name. Of course, he's Tyson Fury's dad, Huey Fury's uncle, Peter Fury's brother, and of course, he used to be a boxer himself. Not a great boxer, admittedly, but I'm like, why would you want to do that for? Anyway, Heavy D, he convinced me to do it. So I recorded it, and I did say to him, listen, I'm going to sit in the background on this one. I don't really want to be at the front leading it. You lead it, you do all the questions, I'll just chirp in once in a while. If I feel like it's starting to slow down a little bit, I'll pick it back up. Anyway, so we did the interview with Mickey Theo, and I put the imagery in that on it, and I edited it, and I put it up on Heavy D's channel. Then he convinced me again, even though I said I wouldn't do it, to interview Big Joe Egan. Joe Egan, he used to be a sparring partner of Mike Tyson. He was friends with John Fury, and he became a bit of a celebrity himself with acting. In fact, he was in the Sherlock Holmes movies with like a Jude Law and Downey Jr., etc. Anyway, so I did this, and eventually I went, Colin, mate, why are you doing this? For what reason? Who really wants to see John Fury versus Mickey Theo? Why are you doing all this? He's like, well, because I want to be on the undercard. Like, all right, okay, so that's your angle. Okay. Anyway, now, if it wasn't for Heavy D, nobody would have heard about this fight. This whole talk between John Fury and Mickey Theo would have ended way back when. But Heavy D, and huge credit to him, he ran with it. He invested in a camera, he invested in a laptop, and started going out and doing the interviews and that himself. So he would actually go out there and interview Mickey Theo. Even ran up on him once in the, was it Taste of Cyprus or something like that? Anyway, and he ran with it. He made that fight popular. He really did. So I do have to give Heavy D a hell of a lot of credit for that one. even though I hated it and I thought that it's absolutely pointless. But of course, when Heavy D died, that whole subject died with him. Okay, so, but now it's kind of, I'm pretty sure if anybody even spoke to Mickey Theo or walked past him in the street or something and actually recognised who he was, what's the first thing people are going to say to him? He's going to mention John Fury. And nobody's going to be able to speak with Mickey Theo without mentioning John Fury. Because that's all people know him for, okay? And so again, I did have a small part to play in it, and I do regret it, because if I had just said, no, we ain't doing it, then Colin Heavy D would have had no platform and no way of recording it to actually do it. So therefore, that whole thing wouldn't have even been a part. So therefore, I wouldn't have any kind of small part to play in it. But I do. But anyway, now Heavy D, as I said, he started off with the boxing celebrity matches and everything, and he was one of the advisors for KSI when KSI took on that young YouTuber from England. Forgot his name. Is it Joe somebody? I don't know. Anyway, he advised him on that one, and then Heavy D just had nothing more to do with KSI. KSI, he kind of like took Heavy D's blueprint, made it bigger, and just left Colin out in the lurch. Then of course he went on and fought Logan Paul twice, and Jake Paul. He's had a few fights since then. Now Tommy Fury's going to be on Jake Paul undercard, and Tommy Fury's going to take on this other MMA fighter to potentially build a fight between him and Jake Paul, and it's all one big joke. To be honest with you, that's what it is. It's all one big joke. And for me, I'm not interested in it. I don't like it. David Haye making a comeback, I don't care. But again, with Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones Jr. and Glenn McCory, he wanted to come back and take on Evander Holyfield, and that was switched to Roy Jones Jr. And everybody who's even a minor celebrity wants to get in on the action, using boxing as a platform to make a bit of money. And as I said to Colin Heavy D way back when, this fight between John Fury and Mickey Theo, while in theory it's great that they're going to raise some money for NHS, how much money are you really going to make? Absolutely nothing. £2.50 a pack of hula hoops. You ain't going to do nothing with it, okay? But these other ones who are coming back, yes, they're making big money and they're putting them on pay-per-view. But again, they're not taking money out of a boxing pot, okay? It's not like they're taking a whole chunk of money and there's not much money left for other fighters. It doesn't work that way. Like Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. If they eventually do have a fight at some point, it's not taking any money out of any kind of pot. Any kind of money that they make, any kind of money that Mike Tyson makes, and Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather and Jake Paul, etc., etc. While a lot of us may not like them, some of you may well do like them, and that's entirely to you. But they're not taking money out of the pockets for other fighters. They're not doing that. Whatever money they make is the money that they generate. Okay, you do have a choice whether or not you click that pay-per-view button or whether you don't. Again, to go back with John Fury, Mickey Theo, as Heavy D said, we'll put it on pay-per-view. That ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. And if it does, it's all on the back of John Fury. Why would John Fury want to do that? But the point is, they're not taking any money out of anybody's pockets. Don't get me wrong, it's not something that I would ever want to do. Would I want to go in there and fight somebody? I mean, don't get me wrong, if the money was right, of course. But not something that I particularly would think about. But that doesn't mean other people shouldn't or other people can't. Of course they can. People can do whatever they want with their lives. If they want to go in there and have a celebrity exhibition fight with somebody, then you go for it. You want to do a YouTuber versus YouTuber, or a celebrity versus celebrity, or a former boxer versus former boxer, or former boxer versus a YouTuber, or however it is that you want to do it, you do what you got to do. They're not harming anybody. They're not doing anything wrong. And yes, it is a way of taking money out of your pocket. But you're voluntarily giving it up. You are voluntarily clicking the pay-per-view. You are voluntarily interested in this fight. And for some people, that's pretty much all the boxing that they're going to watch. They're not going to watch Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder Part 3. They're not going to watch Joshua versus Usyk. But they're interested in a Mike Tyson comeback. They're interested in a Jake Paul or a Logan Paul or a Floyd Mayweather or whatever it may be. That's what they're interested in. So they're not harming boxing at all. And like anything, you have a choice to watch it. It's not like you don't. I know some people are unhappy with it. I'm unhappy with these things. Okay? I don't like them. But guess what I do? I don't watch them. That's what I do. So for me, I can't complain about them. Yes, I did play a minor role. And it's very, very minor. It's not even a percentage of it. But we all have an angle. Everybody has an angle. My angle was to help out Heavy D. Heavy D's angle was to get on the undercard. There's always an angle. With Mike Tyson, his angle will be to make money. He says that they won't be. It will be. the angle for Jake Paul and Logan Paul will be to make money. For Tommy Fury to get in on it. And even though Frank Warren condemned that like those kind of fights, now he's fully on board with it. Why? Because one of his fighters may actually get one of these celebrity fights. It's all about money. That's all it is. But as I said, they're not harming boxing. They're not taking money out of any kind of pocket. The fights that we're going to get anyway, with or without these celebrity fights. So anyway, listen, that's my thoughts. And now I don't have to think about it anymore because now I've recorded it. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.